It's kind of so. Let's see here. All right, we're about to be live soon, everyone. Okay. All right, we're live right now. All right, shalom, everyone. Shalom, Facebook Live and YouTube. Those that are going to see this later on YouTube and even Rumble. So we're debunking another false interpretation here, a heresy, you can say, that pretty much is promoted a lot in the Baptist sect of mainstream Christianity. I would say mainstream evangelical Christianity in general promotes this, and possibly even Pentecostals might. I don't know for sure. I don't want to make false assumptions. But I know for a fact, as a whole, mainstream Christianity does promote this false interpretation of the transference of the temple. So that's what we're going to be dealing with today. So just bear with me, guys. I'm going to bring up this. Okay, I'm going to bring up this page here. I need to go to my Google Docs. Okay, so Google Docs. All right, boom. All right, so. Woo. My bad. All right, so first thing I wanted to add to this here, okay, is, right, we got Deuteronomy. There's a couple of cross references from Deuteronomy I want to go to. I want to go to 12. I want to go to 16. The place that Yahuwah chooses his name to dwell. Right? So, notice, we're going to notice here that specifically it says the place. It does not say a place. It says the place for a reason. Yahuwah, from the beginning of time through the scriptures, if you read it all from beginning to end, Genesis, Revelation, he always picks one place for his name to dwell. He always picks a specific place, whether it was the tabernacle, whether it was the temple. Okay. So the tabernacle in the wilderness was a type of temple for him. And that's what we got to understand. So it always, Yahuwah doesn't change in his personality, in his character, okay? That's what he means by I do not change in Malachi. Not that he can't change things in his law. I want to make a clear distinction here. He can change things in his law. He can change priesthoods. He can institute new priesthoods that are different from the prior priesthood. That doesn't mean he changes as his character, okay? So let's remember that too. He has the right. The lawgiver has the right to make changes within his law. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to address here. So we're going to go to first Deuteronomy 12, where this is first instituted here, that they cannot sacrifice anywhere they want. Okay. And I think I'll use a modern translation just to make it easy for you guys. I'll use the English Standard Version, very basic modern Christian Bible here. Okay, here we go. Sorry guys, I got my throat is very raspy today. These are the statutes and rules that you shall be careful to do in here we go already in the land, not a land, the land that Yahuwah, the Elohim of your fathers, has given you to possess. Okay? All the days that you live on the earth, you shall surely destroy all the places where the ethnoses or nations whom you shall dispossess served their mighty ones on the high mountains, on the hills, and under every green tree. Yeah, Christmas tree. Okay. You shall tear down their altars. Now, where are we doing this? Where are we doing this? Tearing down their altars in the land, not a land. Let's keep that in context here. You shall tear down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their Ashrim with fire. You shall chop down the carved images of their mighty ones and destroy their name out of. Okay, hold on. And their mighty ones and destroy their name out of that place. Why is Yahuwah being so specific with this language here? He's letting you know these are specific commandments you can only keep in the land. Because how many times, Mom, have me reading this right now, just the first 3 verses, how many times has he said this land, that place? What, 3 times already?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a reason he's saying that. Okay, he's making it very a extreme distinction. Okay, that this, you have to do it in this way, in that place. You cannot just start going crazy and smashing people's idols everywhere. That's not even your land. Okay, he's not talking about going in captivity and destroying images, because guess what? If that's the case, why didn't Daniel destroy Nebuchadnezzar's idol?
Mm-hmm.
We can use that as the example that the true context is in the land, in that place. He's talking about the land of Canaan. Okay, you shall not worship your Elohim in that way. And so it talks about and let me go back up to verse 3 here. You shall tear down their, dash in pieces their pillars, burn their Ashrim with fire. You shall chop down the carved images of their mighty ones and destroy their name out of that place. Verse 4, you shall not worship Yahuwah your Elohim in that way. The NLT is even more literal with the paraphrase of the NLT in verse 4. It says, do not worship Yahuwah the way these nations worship their mighty ones. So the ESV agrees with that by saying, you shall not worship Yahuwah in that way, Yahuwah your Elohim in that way, but you shall seek. Notice how it says the place, singular and exclusive. The place that Yahuwah your Elohim will choose. Not that we choose. Not wherever 2 are gathered. Okay? That he chooses out of all your tribes to put his name and make his dwelling or habitation there. There shall you go. And obviously we know future into the time period of King Solomon, this commandment would have been taken to mean the temple that Solomon builds. Yahuwah himself spoke from heaven, said, forever shall my name be there. Okay? That's, we gotta let scripture interpret itself. Okay? And there you shall bring your burnt offerings. Okay? Not in your own dwelling places. You have to bring it to where Yahuwah has his name. Okay? There you shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes, and the contribution that you present, your vow offerings, your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. So if we use some common sense here, if today in a Melchizedek priesthood, there's no human priest, there's no human priesthood, there's no temple to bring offerings to or vows to and tithes to, there can't be any of those things in a Melchizedek priesthood. I mean, let's use some common sense here. That's all we're doing, guys. We're just using common sense, letting scripture interpret itself. Okay? And the contribution that you present, your vow offerings, your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. There you shall eat before Yahuwah, your Elohim, shall rejoice, you and your households, in all that you undertake, in which Yahuwah, your Elohim, has baruched you. Now, obviously, in this context, it's talking about eating the festival tithes, eating the vows, and so on and so forth. There are certain offerings that even the Israelites could eat of, like the peace offerings, okay? So this is all Levitical priesthood context, okay? You shall not do according to all that we are doing here today. So basically, this is Yahuwah changing his law. He's allowed them to sacrifice in the wilderness wherever. But he's saying, no, not anymore. Can't do that anymore. Nope. It even says, all that we are doing here today, everyone doing whatever is right in his own eyes. Sound familiar? Okay. For you have not as yet come to the rest, meaning where Yahuwah is going to put his name. They have not came to that yet, and to the inheritance that Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you. Okay. But when you go over the Jordan and live in the land that Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you to inherit, and when he gives you rest from all your enemies around, so that you live in safety. And I like how the Hebraic Roots Bible, thank you. Okay? Clearly the context is millennium. If we're to take this as future, how can we apply this? Okay? A clear parallel is shown of entering the promised land of Israel with the millennium. Thank you. At least one person gets it. All right. At least one Bible translator gets it. All right. Thank you. But when you go over the Jordan and live in the land that Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you to inherit, when he gives you rest from all your enemies around so that you live in safety, then to the place that Yahuwah your Elohim will choose to make his name dwell there, there you shall bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, the contribution you present, and all your finest vow offerings that you vow to Yahuwah. And you shall rejoice before Yahuwah your Elohim, and you and your sons and your daughters, your male servants and your female servants, and the Levite that is within your towns, since he has no portion or inheritance with you. Okay? Again, there's no Levite in this priesthood that we're in right now. Okay? All right. Take care that you do not offer your burnt offerings at any place that you see. Okay? Earth to McFly here, verse 13. Okay? Can't do it in your backyard. All right? But at the place that Yahuwah will choose in one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I am commanding you. However, you may slaughter and eat meat any of your towns. Okay, so here's the context. What can you do within your own cities and your own gates? You can kill animals to be eaten as a meal, not as a sacrifice. Okay, that's the difference. There is a difference. As much as you desire, according to the Barakah of Yahuwah your Elohim, that he has given you the unclean and the clean, you may eat of it. As of the gazelle, as of the deer, only you shall not eat blood. You shall pour it out on the earth like water. Okay? Now, the context of this is obviously you're hunting your own animals. Okay? So today for us in Babylon, we got to be very careful and kind of make sure and, you know, kind of do our due diligence that that they're not leaving blood in the animal. Okay, that's a very real concern we have here in a type of Babylon that we're in. Make sure we're not eating meat that still has the blood in it. Okay. You may not eat within your towns the tithe of your grain or of your wine or of your oil or the firstborn of your herd or of your flock or any of your vow offerings that you vow or your free will offerings or the contribution that you present. But you shall eat them before Yahuwah your Elohim in the place that Yahuwah your Elohim will choose, you and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, and the Levite who is within your towns. You shall rejoice before Yahuwah your Elohim in all that you undertake. Take care that you do not neglect the Levite as long as you live in your land. Your land. The land of America is not our land, okay? Hence why he says, do not neglect the Levite in your land, okay? I'll give you an example. Do you think Daniel had the option to worry about whether the Levite is getting his portion in Babylon?
No.
Let's think about this, like using common sense here. Okay? This is why Yahuwah is giving this commandment when he says, do not neglect the Levite when You are in your land, the land that he's going to give them, the land of Canaan. Okay. This is all that type of context here. When Yahuwah your Elohim enlarges your territory as he has promised you. He keeps saying your land, your territory. There's a reason he's using this terminology here. Okay. And you say, I will eat meat because you crave meat. You may eat meat whenever you desire. And again, he's not saying that you can't eat meat in captivity, but again, we still have to be careful about the blood and all that, like I spoke about before. But you only eat meat when you're in the land I give you. Guys, what he's saying is when I bring you into this land, you may eat meat if you crave meat, if you want to eat meat. That's all he's saying there. Okay. If the place that Yahuwah your Elohim will choose put his name there too far from you, then you may kill any of your herd or your flock, which Yahuwah has given you, as I have commanded you. You may eat within your towns. Just as the gazelle, deer is eaten, you may eat of it. The clean and unclean alike you may eat of it. I don't like how the Masoretic says that. If you look at the Septuagint, it gives you the context. The doe and the stag are eaten, so you shall eat. The unclean in you, within you, meaning if you're ritually clean or unclean. It's not calling the doe and the stag clean and unclean. It's actually talking about the clean and unclean among you shall eat the doe and the stag. You're free to eat that. Okay? Because the doe and the stag are they're clean animals, number one. So it wouldn't make sense. The way the Masoretic makes it sound, it's like very contradictory. So it's talking about the unclean in you, and the clean shall eat it in like manner. Okay, so yeah, the Septuagint makes a lot more sense on that one. Okay. Take diligent heed that you eat no blood, for blood is the life of it. The life shall not be eaten with the flesh. This is why we don't eat blood, okay? You shall not eat it, neither you shall pour it out on the ground as water. You shall not eat it, that it may be well with you, that your sons after you, if you shall do that which is tob and pleasing before Yahuwah your Elohim. Okay, but you shall take your set apart things, if you have any, and your vow offerings come to the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose to have his name upon it. So you get the point. Again, he keeps talking about bringing the sacrifices to the place he put his name, the place. All the set apart sacrifices that were commanded must be done at the altar in Jerusalem. Okay, so private free will offerings could be done at home if one could not get to Jerusalem. I would like to see that in the text. I don't exactly agree with the commentary of the Hebraic Roots Bible at the end of that. I would like to see some proof of that about the free will offerings. I would like it. Before I'm going to jump on and say he's correct about that, I want to see. But I do agree with the majority of that commentary that you cannot do these sacrifices unless you're in Jerusalem and at the temple. This is the context, okay? You shall sacrifice your whole burnt offerings. You shall offer flesh upon the altar of Yahuwah your Elohim, but the blood of your sacrifices you shall pour out at the foot of the altar of Yahuwah your Elohim, but the flesh you shall eat. Okay? Beware and hearken, and you shall do all the commands I charge you, that it may be well with you, that your sons forever, if you shall do that which is pleasing and tob before Yahuwah your Elohim. And if Yahuwah your Elohim shall utterly destroy the nations to whom you go into there to inherit their land from before you, you shall inherit it. So it's talking about their land, the land of Canaan. That is the inheritance given to his people. Okay? Take heed to yourselves, you seek not to follow after them. Okay, we know the rest of the story there in that chapter. Okay. Now I'm just going to go on second witness here about Yahuwah's always had a solitary, singular place that he would have his name dwell. It's not every believer in the body of Messiah, okay? He had a specific place, physical building or structure where he chose his name to dwell, whether it was the tabernacle or the temple. We're going to go to a second witness of this in Deuteronomy 16. Okay, it says, Deuteronomy 16, verse 2. Okay, And you shall sacrifice the Passover to Yahuwah your Elohim, sheep and oxen in the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose to have his name called upon it. You shall not eat leaven with it. Okay, so you shall not eat leavened bread with the Passover. We already know that. Leaven shall not be seen within your borders. Right here. So this is talking about the sacrifices of Passover. This is not talking about the Passover meal. I want to make that distinctive. But the reason I'm showing this is the concept that our body is not the place he put his name to dwell. The human body is not his temple, okay? Is not the temple, okay? Deuteronomy 16:5, you shall not have power to sacrifice the Passover in any of the cities which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you. So clearly in Deuteronomy 16, there's no way people are understanding the place that he puts his name to dwell as each and every believer of Israel. Okay, they understand this concept. That's why Yahuwah is saying to them, you cannot do it in your own cities. You have to go to a physical place where I put my name to dwell. That's the context there in verse 5. Okay, so that's the reason I'm showing this, trying to build a foundation for us, the scriptural definition of what is that place he put his name to dwell on. Okay, and even if we want to get really technical with this, the true temple of Yahuwah is not even on earth; it is in heaven. His throne in heaven is his temple at this time period, okay? And even back then from the beginning of time, okay? Yahuwah's true temple is in heaven. We're going to go to a couple of cross references here, but I hope you start seeing so far why it's dangerous to spiritualize the temple so far, because you're going to start misunderstanding a lot of the commandments of the Torah. You're going to start doing things in your own way. We're going to get into the trouble of Leviticus chapter 10, if I'm not mistaken, talks about the strange fire of Nadab and Abihu. Okay, you also have in the book of 1 Samuel, King Saul does the same thing. He takes plunder he's not supposed to take, and he tries to sacrifice them to Yahuwah, what was under the ban. Okay, so we're going to be in danger of that, misunderstanding what the temple of Yahuwah is. Okay, and misunderstanding what is the place that he puts his name to dwell. Okay, that's just one of the main problems with the transference of the temple doctrine that this heresy gets you to believe, that you can just do sacrifices anywhere you want, you know, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we're going to go to Yahuwah's true temple in heaven. 1 Kings 8, chapter 8, verse 30. We're going to actually, you know what? Let's go in order here. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 26:15 first, since we were already in Deuteronomy before. Deuteronomy 26:15. Okay, so Yahuwah's temple that he put his name on in Jerusalem was actually a copy of the heavenlies, and we see that before that in the wilderness with the tabernacle also. He told Moshe to make the tabernacle according to the pattern shown to him on the mountain, like what he saw in heaven. Okay. All right. Deuteronomy 26, verse 15. Look down from your set-apart house. It's talking about the third heaven, or, the highest heaven. From the heaven, and Barak your people, Yashar'ah, in the land which you have given them, as you did swear to our fathers, to give us a land flowing with milk and honey. Okay. All right. So that's just one place you can find that concept. Now we're going to go to the next cross-reference here, which is 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 30, 39, and 43. Okay. First Kings chapter 8, verse 30. And you shall hearken to the prayer of your servant and of your people Yashar'ah, which they shall pray toward this place. Notice how it says they shall pray towards this place. And you shall hear in your dwelling place in heaven. You shall do and be merciful, okay? Obviously, 1 Kings 8:30 is talking about the temple in Jerusalem, but then it also says that his true dwelling place is even in heaven. That's why it's saying you shall hear in your dwelling place. Okay? All right, so moving on here. All right. Now we're going to go to verse 39 and 43. Okay, so and if anyone notices stuff is not coming through the share screen, please let me know, because sometimes Zoom glitches, so please let me know if it's not coming through on the shared screen. All right. All right, we're going to go down to verse 39 and 43 of this same chapter. Okay. 1 Kings 8:39. Then shall you hearken from heaven and out of your established dwelling place. Again, it's calling heaven his established dwelling place. You shall be merciful and shall do and repay to every man according to his way. You shall know his heart, for you alone know the heart of all the children of men. Then shall you hear from heaven out of your established dwelling place. You shall do according to all that the stranger shall call upon you, that all the nations may know your name and fear you, as do your people Yashar all, and may know that your name has been called on this house. So it's showing a paradigm between his true temple in heaven and his earthly house, which is a pattern of it as the temple in Jerusalem. Notice that at the end of the verse. Your name has been called on this house, which I have built. So there's no room for spiritualizing that there. It's talking about a physical building, a physical temple, okay? There's no room for interpretation on that one, okay? All right. 2 Chronicles 30, verse 27. Okay, so now we're going to go to 2 Chronicles 30, verse 27. All right, so we're going to go back to eSword. All right. Then the priests, the Levites, rose up and baruched the people, and their voice was heard, and their prayer came into his set-apart dwelling place, even into heaven. Okay, so that's self-explanatory. He's calling heaven his dwelling place. Okay. All right. Psalms 11:4. Okay, so now we're going to go to Psalms 11:4. And I know it's very redundant that I keep putting the share screen on, but okay, for some reason this shared screen will time out sometimes, so I got to make extra careful that it's going to stay on. Okay. Psalms 11:4. Yahuwah is in his set apart temple. As for Yahuwah, his throne is in heaven. His eyes look upon the poor, his eyelids try the sons of men. So the Psalms 11:4 is saying his set apart temple is his throne in heaven. Okay. The highest heaven. Okay. Psalms 113, verse 5. who is as Yahuwah Elohim, who dwells in the high places? Obviously, context here, it's talking about the high places, the heavens as his dwelling place, okay? Because there's multiple heavens. You got the firmament, second heaven, the waters above, and then you got, so there's like 3 levels of heaven. You got the firmament, the waters above the waters, and then you have the throne room, which is like the highest 3rd level of heaven. So that's why it says the high places, plural. Okay. So it's calling that his dwelling place, his temple. All right. Psalms 123, verse 1. So now we're going to go to 123, verse 1. A song of degrees unto you who dwells in heaven have I lifted up my eyes. So again, unto you who dwells in heaven. Okay. All right, man, I'm going to need a drink of water or something. Oof. Isaiah 63, verse 15. All right, 63, verse 15. All right. So we're going to take the screen off for a second, go back to here. All right. All right, so Isaiah 63, 15. Okay, so it says here, turn from heaven and look from your set apart dwelling, from your esteem. So again, it's calling heaven Yahuwah's dwelling, his dwelling place. Okay, your set apart habitation. Okay. Isaiah 66, verse 1. So now we're going to go there. After this, we will address the problems with interpreting Paul's letters and spiritualizing when he's talking about an allegory about the human body as a temple for Yahuwah. Okay. So we're going to deal with that next in the next bullet point after this. Okay. Isaiah 66, verse 1. Thus says Yahuwah, heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. What kind of a house will you build me? And what kind is to be the place of my rest? Okay. So right there it says heaven is his throne, the earth is his footstool. So right there and it even says, what kind of house will you build me? So Yahuwah, Isaiah in prophecy is quoting back the concept from 1st and 2nd Kings, where David wanted to build Yahuwah a house for him to dwell. So again, and we're also going to address later on in Acts chapter 7, people take Stephen's words somehow to mean that Yahuwah never dwells in a building anymore, that he knows. So we're going to address that too. That he's not talking about, generally speaking, that Yahuwah won't put his name on a physical building. Okay, then we're gonna address that too, how that's a misinterpretation. Okay, 1 Corinthians 3:16. Now, I really recommend you use a decent translation. There's a lot of the there where the is not there. Okay, in the text. Okay, so I recommend for this translation you use, I believe it's the ISR, the Scriptures translation, or the ESV. They do a decent translation of this. So let me just make sure I'm on the right verse here, 3:16. Okay, so yeah, see, here's the problem. So depending on the way it's translated, people get this idea that we're now the temple. Okay, but if you have a decent translation like the ISR, it will say, the Scriptures 2009 will actually say, do you not know that you are a dwelling place of Elohim, and that the Spirit of Elohim dwells in you? What it's saying is, okay, you are a type of temple. You are not the temple. There's a difference. There's a difference between a and the. A is an English inclusive word, meaning it's a universal type of word. It can apply to anything. It's a generalized term, a. Like a something is usually, if I'm not mistaken, it's an allegory a lot of the times when it says a temple or a something. Okay, usually it's used as a metaphor or allegory. Okay, when it says the something, it's exclusive. The English word the is exclusive. It means it's the only thing. It's the only type of thing that it's talking about. Okay, so I would really suggest you really look into this concept about looking carefully at certain words, especially looking at them in the Greek. Okay, if we look at the word for temple here, it doesn't always refer to the temple. Okay, it can mean any temple, any dwelling place, any shrine. Okay, used of the temple of Jerusalem, but only of the sacred edifice, any heathen temple or shrine. Metaphorically, the spiritual temple, consisting of the set apart ones of all ages. So the Thayer's Greek lexicon is letting you know this same word that can mean the temple at Jerusalem, the physical temple at Jerusalem, can also mean metaphorically a temple. Okay, which obviously, if we use context here, that's what Paul's talking about. He's saying that the human body is a type of temple for Yahuwah's spirit to dwell in. That's all the verse is saying. It's not saying we're the new temple. Okay, that's the first thing we have to break down and understand. What is the context of that verse? Okay. Now, if we go to a second witness of this, where people misunderstand this verse because the way it's translated in most Bibles, this is why they get this false doctrine. Okay. And Paul, by the way, guys, Paul of himself as a human cannot change the place Yahuwah put his name to dwell. Paul does not have that authority of himself. Okay. So if Yahuwah doesn't reveal anything to his prophets that he's going to do something, Paul doesn't have that authority to say, you're now the temple. He does not have that authority. And this misunderstanding of Paul's letters is why we see droves of our brothers and sisters just giving up and throwing out the New Testament and saying, well, this contradicts the Torah, this contradicts the Tanakh, I'm giving up. You know, and we see multiple brothers and sisters falling away because of issues like this about Paul's letters, that people obviously don't understand his letters. Okay, this is where it's coming from. It's a misunderstanding of Paul's letters, and people get these so-called ideas that there's contradictions when there's not. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to move on to the second witness here, 1 Corinthians 6:19 in the ESV, because the ESV actually translates naos in the context perfectly in this verse, in my opinion, rather than most translations that put the English word the and add it to nahos. Okay, all right, and which completely changes the meaning by having the there. Okay, the English Standard Version, by the way, this is easy to find. This translation is easy to find online for free. Most Bible apps have the ESV. They even have their own website, if I'm not mistaken, where you can read it for free. Okay, so it says here, 1 Corinthians 6:19 in the English Standard Version. Excuse me. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the set-apart Spirit within you, whom you have from Alua, or from Elohim? Okay, you are not your own. What the context of this verse, if we just take it literally, is talking about that you are a type of dwelling place for the Ruach HaKodesh, set apart Spirit of the Father, the Spirit of the Father to dwell in. Not that you are the new temple, not that you replace the temple at Jerusalem. Okay, so if we take this literally, it's just saying that the human body is a type of temple that Yahuwah can choose to dwell in. It's that simple. That's all the verse is saying. And it's just like chapter 3, verse 16. It is not saying that we replace the temple in Jerusalem. Okay? Again. So now we're going to go and show you guys that this interpretation, which I truly believe mainstream Christianity wants to interpret those verses that way because they don't want the Levitical priesthood to come back. It is a preconceived bias to believe in this transference of the temple doctrine. There's no other reason other than, especially for us that are in Torah, there's no reason for us to believe in this because really we understand what Daniel 9:27 is talking about. But those that want to believe Yahusha got rid of the Levitical priesthood permanently, they would want to use those verses I just read from Paul in a twisted, perverted manner to create this doctrine that we are the temple now. There's no need for a human priesthood because we're the new temple now. So this is the problem. Interpreting it that way will get you to be deceived even with end time stuff. And we're going to get to that point. But what I want to get to right now is that there's proof in Scripture that Yahusha did not do away with the Levitical priesthood. And you know what? I might as well include Daniel 9:27 in this to show you guys this. So Daniel 9:27 is talking about the anti-Messiah. Okay? So this concept that he who takes away the sacrifices, right? This is not talking about Yahusha, and we're going to prove it here. We're going to go to Daniel 9:27 in the Septuagint. Okay? The key phrase here to know that it's not talking about our Messiah here, and that it's talking about the beast, the Antichrist, the anti-Messiah, it says, he shall cause the abomination of desolations. All right? So this is an important concept to understand here, okay? Now we're going to go to Daniel 9:27, and most of us here, me and my brother Joshua here and sister Sally here, we've known this scripture. We've heard this so many times. We almost know it by heart here, okay? All right, this is the famous scripture that gives you the timeline of the tribulation. If you interpret it correctly, you'll know how long the tribulation is supposed to be, okay? A scriptural, basically half of the week of that covenant is the tribulation, okay? The second half of that covenant. I'll show you what I'm talking about after I read the verse, okay? Brenton's English Septuagint reads it as, and 1 week shall establish. So the week is not the whole tribulation. The tribulation is not the whole week, okay? It's half of the week, okay? And 1 week shall establish the covenant with many, and in the midst or middle of the week, my sacrifice and drink offering shall be taken away. That's the abomination of desolation right there. The sacrifice and drink offering being taken away. And on the temple shall be the abomination of desolations. Yahusha does not cause the abomination of desolations, okay? And at the end of time, an end shall be put to the desolation, meaning the abomination of desolation will be destroyed at the end of time. End will be put to that desolation, okay? That's how to correctly interpret that verse, all right? So from this verse, we get the concept that there will be sacrifices being brought back even when the covenant is made. When the 7-year covenant's made, the whole week covenant is made, so-called Levitical priesthood will come back, which I believe to be a false Levitical priesthood. They're going to bring back in the third temple that's being built right over there in Jerusalem as we speak. There's a third temple being built, okay? When the beast makes his, entrance, whenever that happens, you have the 7-year covenant he makes. The first 3.5 years, nothing really is going to happen as far as the tribulation. goes, there's going to be no tribulation until the first 3 years are over. This is where Christianity misses with eschatology. This is where they're missing the mark. Okay, it's not a 7-year tribulation. Okay, literally, the tribulation doesn't even start until the first 3 years are over of that prophetic week. Okay, so again, that's what this verse is literally saying. It's saying in the middle of the week. That's when it happens. That's when the tribulation happens. Okay. So anyway, I just want to show you that this is a preconceived bias by Christianity. They want to think that Daniel 9:27 refers to Yahusha. So obviously they're going to interpret Paul's letters a certain way to make it look like we're the new temple. Okay. So hopefully this is making some sense here, the deception here of this heretical doctrine. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to, and we're going to prove the fallacy of this, because we're going to go to Zechariah 6:13, a prophecy that shows Yahusha when he comes. This obviously has to be his second coming, because this never happened when he first came. It says that he will build temple of Yahuwah. The branch will build the temple of Yahuwah. Obviously, Yahusha, son of Jehozadak, is not the branch, the stem of Jesse. Okay. So obviously this didn't happen in Zechariah's day. It didn't happen at all during the time Yahusha first came in 1st century AD. Okay. This still has to happen in the future, in the millennium. Okay. And we're going to read that real quick in Zechariah 6:13. And pretty much any version, you're going to get this concept. I don't think it really matters. Like I said, for simplicity, I'll even use the ESV for anyone that's viewing or listening. Okay. It is he who, notice how it says, it is he who shall build the temple of Yahuwah, the branch, okay, and shall bear royal honor, and shall sit and rule on his throne. His throne. What? This has to be referring to the millennial. You know why? He doesn't sit on a throne in his first coming. Okay, this has to be talking about the millennial. Why? Because he's sitting on and ruling on his throne. He's ruling with a rod of iron, right? Revelations 12. Okay, there shall be a priest on his throne. Obviously, he's going to be his own priest. Well, actually, yeah, there shall be a priest on his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be upon them both. Counsel of peace, Prince of Peace. Okay. Okay, so Hebraic Roots Bible is mentioning Revelations 19:12. Okay, so most translators would understand this to mean the basically. So let me see here if I can show you here. He shall go up from his stem. Okay, spring from his stem. That's another clue. It's talking about Yahusha, the stem of Jesse. Okay, and physically build the house of Yahuwah, and shall receive power. Sound very similar to Revelations here. And shall sit and rule upon his throne, and there shall be a priest on his right hand. Oh, thank goodness. I knew the Masoretic text had some weird stuff there. A priest sitting on the throne, that didn't make sense at first. Okay. So this is even hinting to the Levites serving him, which we can find in Ezekiel 44 and other places. Okay, so the Levites will be at Yahusha's right hand, serving him. And a peaceable counsel shall be between them both. Now, Christianity doesn't want to accept this. They probably never even read Zechariah 6 before, but Zechariah the prophet is showing you that there's a Levitical priesthood being foreshadowed to come back. It's not done away with. Okay? So now we're going to go with Revelations 21:3 and Zechariah 2:10. His tabernacle, his dwelling place is with man, not in man. Okay? So his dwelling place, his exclusive dwelling place is to be with mankind, not in mankind. Okay? Revelations 21:3, Zechariah 2:10. Okay? Revelations 21:3. I'll use the ESV because I don't think there's much of a difference there. Okay. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, the dwelling place of Alua is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And Alua will be with them as their Alua." Okay? So pretty much self-explanatory with that verse. Okay? He's with them, not in them. Okay? His dwelling place is to be along the side of them, not in them. Okay? And I mean, you could even go to other scriptures, that talk about we shall see him as he is. To see him as he is, he has to be physically in front of you. He can't be in you. So I mean, there's multiple problems with the transference doctrine here, as we're seeing. Okay, Zechariah 2:10. Okay, Zechariah 2:10. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Sion, for behold, I come, I will dwell in your midst, declares Yahuwah. And again, if people say that Matthew is saying that now we're the temple because Yahusha said, wherever you are, I'm dwelling in your midst. What does in your midst mean? It means with you, not in you. And so again, you can't even use that as a way to spiritualize that wherever we are is his temple. You can't do that. Okay, that's not how it goes. You can't spiritualize it, because even with that verse people want to use, like I said just now, is that he's in our midst, meaning he's right next to us or in front of us. He's not in our body. He's not dwelling in our human bodies to be in our midst. Okay, you can't have it both ways. So anyway, let's go back to Revelations 21. Another place it's mentioned here. This time it says that, let's see here. And I saw no temple in the city, for its temple is Yahuwah Elohim Almighty and the Lamb. Little oneness here. Huh. Wait a minute, but it's one temple. But there's two personalities being mentioned. There's one physical temple, but two people being mentioned. How does that work? Well, they're the same person. That's how it works. Yahuwah Elohim Almighty and Yahusha the Lamb are one person. That's how it can be one temple. Okay? That's just one of the clues that shows you that Yahusha is Yahuwah in the flesh. Okay? When he came and became a human being and he humbled himself to become mortal, somewhat, obviously he became part mortal when he took on flesh. It was Yahuwah in human form. Okay? And we see this right here in Revelations 21:22. It's distinctively talking about two different personalities as one physical being, one physical building, a temple. Okay? And obviously there's some commentary here. So, yeah. Anyway, I don't exactly agree with them trying to work around the oneness there. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. All right. 2 Chronicles 6:6. I have chosen Jerusalem. Okay. So again, what place has he chosen for his physical temple, a physical building that is his house for it to be built? He chose it to be built in Jerusalem. Okay. 2 Chronicles 6:6. All right. Yep, go ahead, Brother Joshua.
Just having trouble understanding something that you said. You said that he's not in us. So help me to understand that if he is Ruach and his Ruach is his Ruach in us? If his Ruach is in us, then how does that not mean that he is not in us?
Well, what I mean by that is that when it says I will dwell amongst them, he can't be, he is going to be physically in front of us in the kingdom. There will not be his spirit in us because he is his spirit. So he will be in front of us.
Just in kingdom reference.
Yeah, like kingdom reference, like future reference. When he's talking about in your midst means among you. It doesn't mean in you. So what I'm trying to say is this language.
I misunderstood the context of the chapter.
Okay, no problem, bro. Yeah, so like I said, please, people, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we're not at all a type of temple for a spirit to dwell in. Obviously, his spirit chooses to be in us in this present time, as in his spirit dwells in us. Obviously, the New Testament talks about that. But what I'm saying is that doesn't make us the exclusive dwelling place for him, if that makes any sense, okay? That doesn't make our human body the place where he put his name to dwell, okay? All over the Tanakh, he keeps saying, I chose Jerusalem. I chose the temple in Jerusalem. I chose the tabernacle. There's a reason he's saying this. The land, the land, the land. Like we mentioned, we saw before in Deuteronomy 12, Deuteronomy 16. It's Yahuwah, there's repetition in his word. There's reason he uses repetition. He's trying to get it through our thick skulls here. This is the place where you can take your offerings. You can't. I think the danger is we take an allegory that Paul uses, like I mentioned before. We are a type of dwelling place for a spirit to dwell in. And then we misunderstand something that's talking about a metaphor and inclusive, and we try to make it exclusive. And that is a danger. As you can see, you'll see with end times prophecy how that's a danger, how the new kingdom is not going to be that way. He's not going to be in us. He's going to be with us, in front of us. We're going to see him as he is. Okay, there's huge contradictions with that interpretation that we're the new temple. But good question, brother Joshua. Thank you for asking me, for clearing that up. So again, even from the beginning, he said, I will dwell among you, even when they got to the wilderness. So yeah, he can choose at times for his spirit to dwell in our body. And again, I think what confuses us, we don't understand he's omnipotent. I think that's another thing we don't understand. He can be at three different places at once. I'll give you an example. He can be on earth at the same time he's still in heaven. The Father's still in heaven, but the Son's on earth, right? Okay, that's two places at once. And then he can have his spirit, dwell in us at the same time, yet they're seeing Yahusha in front of them, like when the disciples were with Yahusha. So again, I think what people mistaken, and this is how people get deceived in the Trinity, is Yahuwah can manifest himself in three ways at the same time, but that doesn't make him three persons. Okay, that's the difference. What the Trinity did was it corrupted this idea that Yahuwah is omnipotent. That's what the Trinity did. It's a perversion of that. It's a pagan Babylonian perversion of that. What the truth is the oneness is that he is one singular physical entity, one person, not three people, and he can manifest himself at three different places at once if he wants to. And I think that's what we need to try to grasp or try to understand, and ask him for discernment to understand this concept, because we see this all the time in scripture. Especially when Yahusha's on, at the minimum, he's at two places at once. He's still on his throne in heaven, and yet he's on earth in human form at the same time. So that's what Christianity calls omnipotent or omnipresence. So anyway, hopefully that kind of cleared it up how that's possible. But I chose Jerusalem that my name should be there. I chose David to be over my people, Yasher all. Okay, so again, I chose Jerusalem that my name should dwell there. Okay, all right. All right, so 2 Chronicles 12:13. Jerusalem, the city which Yahuwah had chosen of all the tribes of Yasharel to put his name there. So now we're going to go to 2 Chronicles 12:13. 2 Chronicles 12:13. So King Rehoboam strengthened himself in Jerusalem and reigned. And Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign. And he's reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, in the city which Yahuwah chose out of all the tribes of the children of Yasharel to call his name there. So he makes it very distinctive where his name is called. Okay. His name was to dwell in Jerusalem forever. There's no verse in scripture that says his name is going to dwell in his people. There's no as a place to put his name there. There's no, every time he talks about putting his name there, it's either talking about the temple or Jerusalem, the majority of the time. So again, this is a concept that we need to understand. So, and that's how we should be able to interpret Deuteronomy 12, what we just read earlier. Okay. Daniel 5:23 even talks about this, how it calls the temple in Jerusalem his house. Okay. Daniel 5:23. And you have been exalted against Yahuwah, Elohim of heaven, and they have brought before you the vessels of his house. You and your nobles and your mistresses and your concubines have drunken wine out of them, talking about the golden vessels from the temple. And you have praised the mighty ones of gold, silver, brass, iron, and wood, and stone, which see not, which hear not, which know not, and the Elohim in whose hand are your breath, all your ways, have you not esteemed. Okay. So again, Daniel 5:23 says his house. Okay. Now here's another future millennial verse. Okay, showing that there's going to be a Levitical priesthood again. And this, I know the Jewish thought is that this happened in the days of, what's the guy's name? King Herod. But when you read in context about this new temple, okay, it wasn't Herod's temple that it's talking about, especially in the book of Ezekiel. When you get to chapters 40 to 45, it makes it very clear that it's a future temple that was never built yet. Okay. Isaiah 66:21. And notice how right after he's talking about this, he's talking about prophetically, chronologically, what happens after this, which actually makes a lot of sense. It says, and I will take of them priests as Levites, says Yahuwah. Now, this is where people get confused. They think verse 22 is happening at the same time as 21. No, it's following the millennium. The new heaven, new earth doesn't happen until the very end. So that's where people get confused and think there's going to be Levites forever. There's not going to be Levites forever. The Levites are for the millennial. You can see that in Zechariah 14. And like I said before, Ezekiel chapters 40 to 45. All millennial context, strictly millennial context, not new heaven and new earth context. This next verse, though, talks about, for as the new heaven and new earth, which I make remains before me, says Yahuwah, so shall all your seed and your name continue. It shall come to pass from month to month, from Sabbath to Sabbath, that all flesh shall come to worship before me in Jerusalem, says Yahuwah. And again, his dwelling place, Jerusalem. Okay? Worship me in Jerusalem. Think about it. How will we do that if we're the new temple, right? How are we worshiping him in Jerusalem? How is that happening? Okay, so there's a lot of issues with this spiritualizing of the temple doctrine. There's a lot of issues when you get into prophecy. It becomes very evident. All right, Ezekiel 45:15 we're going to go to next. So we got a couple of scriptures from Ezekiel here. Actually, first let's go to Ezekiel 41. Let's go to that first. Okay, Ezekiel 41. And he brought me into the temple, the porch of which he measured 6 cubits the breadth on one side, the 6 cubits the breadth of the porch on the other side, and the breadth of the gateway was 10 cubits, and the side pieces of the gateway were 5 cubits on the side and 5 cubits on that side, and he measured the length of it 40 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits, and he went into the inner court and measured the post of the door. Okay, this is just talking about that, the length. Okay, in front of the temple of it. Okay, it's talking about the temple here. Okay, there's around space. So basically, Ezekiel's being shown a future temple that has yet to be built. The breadth of the upper side. Okay, yada, 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 yada. As the height of the house. Okay. I'm just seeing if there's anything else here we need to go to in this chapter. Windows, how the windows are supposed to be built. All right, this is clear to me. And unless people maybe have found something through history that would contradict this interpretation, this has to be future. Verse 18. There were carved cherubs and palm trees between the cherubs, and each cherub had 2 faces. Now, this is like a parallel to Solomon's temple. From maybe, Mom, am I wrong? Did Herod's temple ever have any of that artwork on the inside? Cherubs and all that?
Herod's temple, I am told, is like a shack.
Okay.
Compared to Solomon's temple.
So I'm just saying this in Ezekiel 41:18 is talking about there were carved cherubs and palm trees on the walls. Each had 2 faces.
Yeah, I doubt that any of that was in Herod's temple.
The face of a man was toward. So basically, the 4 living creatures, they're using artwork on the walls are the 4 living creatures. So they're actually carving them into the walls here. Okay. And the face of a lion and all that. So we know about what they look like and all that. From the floor to the ceiling were cherubs and palm trees carved. The set-apart place and the temple opened on 4 sides. In front of the set-apart places, the appearance was the look of a wooden altar. The height of it 3 cubits, the length 2 cubits. So now it's talking about a wooden altar. The temple had 2 doors, and the set-apart place had 2 doors. And there was carved work upon them, and the cherubs on the doors of the temple. Yeah, I mean, unless someone can show me historically that Herod's temple looked like this description, I don't know. Just saying, man, I have to believe this is a millennial temple. This is all future here in Ezekiel 41, which means that Yahuwah will have a place in Jerusalem that has his name there again in the millennium. Okay. So we're going to go now. We already did Zechariah 6:13. Let me actually take rid of that because that's a redundant citing there. I already cited that earlier in the document. Okay. Ezekiel 45:15. So now we're going to go to a couple of verses in Ezekiel 45 and 46 to get more context on this concept. Okay. Ezekiel 45:15. And 1 sheep from the flock out of 10 as an oblation from all the tribes of Yasharal for sacrifices and for whole burnt offerings and for peace offerings to make atonement for you, says Yahuwah. And all the people shall give these first fruits to the prince of Yasharal. Now remember, around the time of Herod, they really didn't have a prince. There was no king that you could really consider an Israelite or of the belief of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. From what I'm told, from what we see in history, King Herod would not qualify for the prince. Okay, the prince in this context is most likely referring to Yahusha as David, their king. What we read about on this past Sabbath. What was that, Mom? That was Jeremiah or Ezekiel talks about they shall have one King David in a millennial context. Yeah. Okay. And all the people shall give these first fruits to the prince of Israel. Through the prince shall be offered whole burnt offerings, meat offerings. By the way, meat just means grain. That's an old English word for like food. Doesn't mean animals, okay? Grain offerings, drink offerings in the feasts at the new moons and on the Sabbaths and all the feasts of the house of Yasharallah, he shall offer. Who shall offer? The prince shall offer the sin offerings and the grain offerings and the whole burnt offerings. Okay? And the meat offerings to make atonement for the house of Yasharallah. So this is why Paul says in Colossians, these things are shadows to come, not have came. Those translators that have done that in Colossians 2:16-17 are not being honest with the Greek. And they're actually mistranslating it on purpose to make people think that the shadows have already came, that we only need the substance of Messiah and they're no longer shadows. No, that's wrong. That's incorrect. The shadows are still there. That's the purpose of the shadows, to point to him, as verse 17 talks about. Okay. Thus says Yahuwah Elohim in the first month on, so it goes on the first day of the month. By the way, again, there's two separate Greek words being used here. First of the month is what's talking about the new moon, or the first day of the month. Yeah. So again, yeah, Thayers. Yeah. So let's see here. The Thayers. Shall take of the blood. Okay. So. Okay, month, Mané, a month, day 1 of the month. Okay. Anyway, so that's the point of Ezekiel 45. It's all future context. It's all talking about basically this future temple, future sacrifices, future prince that the again Zechariah 6:13-14 says that the Septuagint instead of the Masoretic text saying that a priest is going to sit on a throne, which makes no sense, is kind of blasphemy. That Yahusha is sitting on the throne. He's the one on the man of peace on the throne, and they're serving him to the right, at his right hand. Okay, so this is all future. Ezekiel 46 verse 2. So you can find this all in the later chapters of Ezekiel. This is not a foreign concept. What happens is Judaism interprets all this as King Herod's temple, and the 1st century AD fulfilled this. 2 BC to 33 AD fulfilled this for them. So they believe there's no more future temple or whatever. Okay, Ezekiel 46:2. And the prince shall enter the way of the porch of the inner gate, and shall stand at the entrance of the gate, and the priest shall prepare his whole burnt offerings. So the prince can't be the priests. The prince is someone that is like the king, that is the ruler of all 12 tribes, and the priests are what? Serving him, getting his sacrifices ready. So this is a picture of the Levites serving Yahusha in the millennium. That's what it's saying. It's saying the priest shall prepare his whole burnt offerings and his peace offerings, and he shall worship at the entrance of the gate. Then shall he come forth, but the gate shall not be shut till evening. Okay? And the people of the land shall worship at the entrance of that gate, both on the Sabbaths and at the new moons before Yahuwah. Okay? And again, we can't do that right now. Why? Because it's talking about his temple being there. It's using shall. Why is it using shall? Because we are in captivity. We are not there to be able to do this. And there's no temple to do it there in the context that it's talking about. This is why it's, even the language here is future tense. There's a reason it's future tense. Okay, Ezekiel 46:24. All right, so now we're going to go to 46:24. Ezekiel 46:24. And he said to me, these are the cook's houses, where they that serve the house shall boil the sacrifices of the people. Okay, sacrifices coming back, right? Boil the sacrifices of the people. The cooks have their own house. Okay. Ezekiel 46:24. So this is all future stuff. All future context here. All right, so we're going to go to Ezekiel 40. Ezekiel chapter 40 here. Okay, this a vision of the new temple. It came to pass in the 25th year of our captivity, in the first month, on the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after the taking of the city, and that day the hand of Yahuwah was upon me. Who is that? That's Yahusha. The hand of Yahuwah, the right hand, was upon me and brought me in a vision of Elohim. And like I talked about, Yahuwah's on omnipotence here, right? If Yahusha is Yahuwah, right, and he's the hand of Yahuwah, and he's bringing him in a vision, okay, he's actually at two places at once. He's coming upon him, you could say even resting upon him, and he's in heaven to show him this dream, right? So you got Yahuwah in two places at once. All right. And set me on a very high mountain. Upon it there was as it were the frame of a city before me. And he brought me in there, and behold, there was a man, and the appearance of him was as the appearance of shining brass. In his hand was a builder's line and a measuring reed, and he stood at the gate. And again, like this concept of shining brass, every angel looks like that. That's not just Yahusha in pre-incarnate form. Every angel is like, basically they're made of different material. The iron, iron and clay, like we talked about yesterday. Okay, so every angel's pretty much made of that. And the man said to me, look your eyes at him whom you have seen, son of man. Hear with your ears, lay up in your heart all the things that I show you. For you have come in here that I might show you, that you shall show all things that you see to the house of Yasharah. The east gate to the outer court. So then it talks about the east gate, and what he's seeing here is he's being shown the whole porch here, the chamber, the inner chambers. Okay, so we don't have time to go through every measurement of what it's going to look like, but I'm kind of giving you a summary of the new temple here. Okay, it's talking about the breadth of the door, the width of the door. Okay, and you can kind of just skim through this and get understanding this is not Herod's temple at all. Okay, open space of the porch gate, chambers round the gate, open space of the gate without the open space of the porch of the gate with, there were secret windows to the chambers. I mean, I'm just skimming through this, and this does not sound like Herod's temple at all.
Nope.
Okay, he brought me into the inner court. There's an inner court just like the tabernacle had in the wilderness. So this blueprint Ezekiel's being shown is like the same blueprint you could say Masha was shown. It perfectly parallels actually King Solomon's temple. Okay, to the north gate. Okay, so I'm just skimming through here to see anything really, really important to bring out from this description of the new temple here. Okay, the palm trees on the posts. If I'm not mistaken, King Solomon had that in his temple. Okay, see here, inner courtyard, chambers and posts, porches, palm trees, chambers, and I think that's pretty much about it. It gives all of its dimensions and stuff like that. You can read that on your own time, but we need to move on here. We got other stuff to get through here in this study, so we're going to move on here. So you get the point, though, that this is talking about a future millennium temple. That it has to be. Okay, next point I want to get to is when Yahuwah is going to make a change prophetically, it has to be established in the prophets. No person in the New Testament, no author in the New Testament can contradict what the prophets say. They cannot make up something new. Paul cannot make up a new doctrine that goes against the prophets. If the prophets are saying that there's going to be a Levitical priesthood again, by default, that means Paul cannot be saying, if he is a true apostle, he cannot be saying that we're the new temple. You can't have it both ways. Okay, Amos 3:7 says Yahuwah will not do anything unless revealing it to his servants, the prophets. And by the way, Paul never said he was a prophet. Just saying. Okay, so we have to interpret that verse in Amos 3:7 to refer to the prophets of the Old Testament. Yahuwah will not do anything without revealing it to them. So we have to understand that. And even when you go into the book of Luke, it says the prophets were until John. What does that mean? It means that all the prophets of the Tanakh stopped when John the Baptist came. Why? John the Baptist, he was a prophet, but he's a prophet of the Tanakh time, of the New Testament time period. So what it's saying is all the prophets of the Tanakh ended at John the Baptist. Not that the Torah is done away with, but that the prophets of old stopped when John the Baptist was born. So that means that Malachi is the last one of what is considered in Amos 3:7 his prophets, as the prophets of old. So Amos 3:7 is not referring to a future prophet like John the Baptist or someone like that. Amos 3:7 in context is referring to his prophets, basically from Joshua all the way down into Malachi. Those are his prophets of the Tanakh period. So Amos was written way before there was a New Testament, way before John the Baptist existed. Okay, so it says, "For Yahuwah Elohim will do nothing without revealing instruction to his servants, the prophets." Meaning, he's not going to make up something new and not tell his prophets about it. He's not going to do something new and not tell his prophets anywhere. So if we don't see something written in the prophets of old, and yet Paul is not even claiming to be a prophet, yet he's speaking of a new revelation somehow, we got to rethink the verse we're looking at and really think, are we interpreting that correctly? Or are we being deceived and misled to twist Paul's letters to our own destruction? We got to be very careful, guys, because it's very easy to do that. Paul's very hard to understand sometimes. So we got to be very careful about that we're not breaking this rule, Amos 3:7. Okay? Yahuwah's not going to do something new without telling his prophets. Okay? All right? Okay, here we go here. All right, it says, this false doctrine will deceive people concerning end times prophecy. Now we're going to get to this point where it's deceiving people. Okay? So when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the set apart place, whosoever reads, let him understand. Daniel 11:36-37 and Daniel 9:27. We already read Daniel 9:27, but let's read Daniel 11:36, and I think we'll also do 2 Thessalonians. We're going to get to 2 Thessalonians later, though. But let's read Matthew 24:15 first. Okay. And then we're going to get to Daniel 11:36. All right. So when you see the abomination, I don't like how the Masoretic says lays waste yet. That's stupid. Okay. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken by Daniel the prophet, standing. This is how it cannot be referring to the human body. Okay. Standing, meaning there's a physical statue. Okay. In the most set apart place. Question here: what is the most set apart place according to Torah? What was the most set apart place? That was where Yahuwah was dwelling in the temple behind the veil, right? You can't spiritualize that as the human body. That is impossible. No. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be understanding with brothers and sisters that spiritualize that, but you can't spiritualize this verse. There's no way to take it spiritually at all. Okay? Standing in the most set apart place. The most set apart place, like I said before, was the part of the tabernacle behind the veil, part of the temple behind the veil. You can find that from like Exodus all the way through. Like it starts in Exodus with the building of the tabernacle and goes all the way to the temple, Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. Even the veil that Yahusha rent when he resurrected. Some people believe it was the heavenly veil. I disagree. I believe it was the earthly veil. I know there's some teachers out there that say that. I completely, respectfully disagree. I'm trying to be as nice as I can with my wording here. I respectfully disagree with that interpretation. It was the earthly temple veil that was rent. So when you see the words most set apart place, that is literally the what is called in your modern Bibles the Holy of Holies in the temple. Okay. Okay, so this is how we have to interpret this. We have to look at it literally. Okay, that's what it's describing. It's describing a literal temple where a graven image is going to be. And we're going to see later on, I have one historical extra biblical reference that adds a extra witness to what the canon is already saying here. Okay. All right. So anyway, so let's move to Daniel 11:36 to 37. All right. So Daniel 11:36 to 37. Okay. And by the way, that was the Son of Man Bible, a very modern Bible. So, I mean, pretty much most translations have it wording like that in Matthew 24. Okay, so Daniel 11:36, by the way, is directly quoted by Paul in 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4. Just wanted to let you know that. Okay. The king will act according to his desires. Let me see. I actually like the Septuagint since we're going with a quote from Paul here. He shall do according to his will, and the king shall exalt and magnify himself above every deity. He shall speak great swelling words and shall prosper until the dignation shall be accomplished, for it is coming to an end. Remember how Daniel said in Daniel 9:27, at the end of time shall the abomination desolation be put to an end, right? So coming to an end, same context. Okay, so this has to happen until it's accomplished. This is how we know Daniel 11:36 is not only talking about Antiochus Epiphanes, because we see Daniel 9 talking about at the end of time. Okay, it's a future context. So yes, in the Maccabean revolt, it was partially fulfilled. And we're probably going to go to those scriptures too. I think it's good to go to those scriptures to get a better understanding of, what Solomon said, what shall be will shall be again. There's nothing new under the sun. So Yahuwah is not going to do new things in prophecy. He's not going to fulfill it to an extreme literal way, physical way, and then spiritualize it in the end times. Like Yahuwah is not trying to trick us. Okay, so he's trying to make it very easy for us to understand. All right. Okay, so again, Paul is quoting from Daniel 11:36. And they put also a reference with Ezekiel 28 referencing Satan, which is kind of interesting. But this is a direct quote from Daniel 11:36 here. All right. 2 Thessalonians 2:4. Who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called deity, mighty one, all that is worshipped, so that he sits as, I would think it should say Yahuwah here, as Yahuwah in the dwelling place of Yahuwah, showing himself that he is Yahuwah. Again, this is talking about sitting. The anti-Messiah cannot sit on the throne of your heart. That does not make any sense. Okay, he's talking about him sitting on a throne. This beast is going to sit on a throne in a temple, declaring himself to everyone. Everyone will hear him saying this. I am the Almighty. I am Yahuwah. And we're going to see how an extra biblical source, like I mentioned before, literally says that and expounds on this concept that Paul's talking about here. Okay. So, all right. Mark 13:14. So now we're going to get to the book of Mark here, Mark 13:14. But actually before that, I want to get to the Maccabees. I want to go a little bit of historical proof and evidence here that Daniel 11:36 was partially fulfilled with a literal interpretation. Daniel 11:36 was partially fulfilled in the book of Maccabees. So we're going to go there. I'm going to go to my T as 2009 notes here. Dictionary topics, abomination, desolation. Okay. All right. 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 2. And I'm reading from the Septuagint Apocrypha here, okay? And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they desire that dwelt in the places. Talking about desecrating Yahuwah's temple in Jerusalem. They were sacrificing a pig on the altar and all that. Okay, and they set up a statue of Zeus. Okay, and according to the TS 2009 notes, it says here, we find this term, who is the abomination of desolation, during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes in 1 Maccabees 1:54 to 57, 2 Maccabees 6:2. It is referred to Zeus or Baal, shaman, as the Syriac version of 2 Maccabees 6:2 renders it. The great sky deity or sun deity Messiah. Who does that sound like? I don't know, the Messiah of Catholicism. The fact that they mistaken Yahusha, even the church fathers themselves have misunderstood Yahusha as the Sun. So the Messiah that's taught in Catholicism would match this. Okay? So when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, okay, so it's going into that. But what's interesting to note is Zeus, Baal, or the Syriac name Shaman, is described as the sun deity Christos. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, so First Maccabees 1:54 to 57. So let's go there. This is another reference of the partial fulfillment. So we're going to go to chapter 1:54 to 57. Now the 15th of the month Kislev, in the 144th year, they set up the abomination. Notice how it says they set up. So this is not happening in a human body. Okay, they set up, meaning a graven image of the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Yehuda on every side, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire. So it's talking about destroying. And this makes sense why the book of 4th Ezra says that Ezra, after they're out of Babylon captivity, and they're well, this is already out of after Babylonian captivity too, but I find it interesting that it says that the law was burnt. Okay, what would be interesting to find out is if 4th Ezra was written around the time of Maccabees. That would actually make sense, because that means that someone had to write the law. Someone had to rewrite it. So that's pretty interesting to me. And by the way, the law is the scriptures. That would be like Torah and prophets, what they consider the law. Even Yahusha said the book of Psalms is the law. So it's not just talking about the first 5 books of Moses. Just wanted to make a point there. Okay. And whosoever was found in any of the book of the covenant, with the book of the covenant, or in any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. This is, brothers and sisters, this is what we have to look forward to. This, I'm being honest, this is what's going to happen in the tribulation. This is why it's important, because people might be saying, oh, the book of Maccabees, it's only a historical book, it's not inspired. But even if it's historical value, it's telling you, prophetically telling you what's going to happen. Solomon says himself, nothing is new under the sun. So what happened before is going to happen again. Don't think that the true end times anti-Messiah would not stoop to this, that he's not going to burn your physical Bibles, okay? It's very possible that this is going to happen again, okay? So that's why I'm reading this too, to harp on this. There is importance in studying historical, extra-biblical literature. There's a reason for it. Just for this reason, just to get us ready and be like, oh crud, we better we better start having backup of scripture, and we better start memorizing some scripture here, because
Absolutely.
we might not have it. Okay. So now I'm done with that. So that is a apocryphal, which I believe to be canonical, because it was canon of the Septuagint, canon of the King James, canon of the Geneva Bible. Wycliffe, Catholic Bibles today consider that book canon, the Book of Maccabees. Okay. I believe it is inspired. It's not just historical, but I know other people think otherwise. That's fine. We can agree to disagree, but I believe it's inspired. I don't see no contradictions in it. So anyway, Mark 13, verse 14, standing where it ought not to be. So if it wasn't enough, Matthew 24:15 says standing where it ought not, or you see it standing in the set apart place. Mark 13:14 reiterates this, that the image of the beast will be a physical graven image in a physical building, in a physical temple. Okay. Mark 13:14. And when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, set up where it should not be, he who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yehuda flee to the mountains. Okay. See, so again, in footnotes, see the explanatory notes that they have for abomination and desolation. Okay, but it says standing where it ought not to be. Standing, okay? So that has to be a physical statue. All right, so and again, 2 Thessalonians 2:4, he'll be sitting on a throne. We already went to that. Revelations 13:16 to 17. Okay. Revelations 13:16 to 17. Okay. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a mark upon their right hand or upon their foreheads, that no one should be able to buy or sell except he that has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Obviously, that's all physical, because he's causing people to prostrate. Okay, the word worship actually means to, like, literally prostrate yourself to the ground, to reverence a image of the beast. Okay, that is all literal and physical, and he can't do that in the human body. That's impossible to do that. Okay, that no one should be able to buy or sell, that he that has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So all that has to be literal and physical. You can't get any spiritualization of that at all. Okay, verse 15 even says the image of the beast, says he will give spirit to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause to be killed. So the image of the beast is going to come to life. This graven image that people are going to see in front of them is going to be caused to, he basically, what Satan is doing here, he's mimicking what Yahuwah did with Adam, right? What did he do first? He got the body for Adam, right? The dust of the ground. What did he do after that to cause Adam to become a living being? He breathed a spirit into him, okay? This is mimicking Genesis, okay? You can go back to the first 6 days of creation in Genesis, chapters 1 to 3, and you can see Satan's trying to mimic what Yahuwah did with Adam, with an image of the beast. So the image of the beast cannot be a human body. Okay, he's actually creating his own image. Satan is actually trying to create his own image, And by the way, just to note what's interesting, in Kabbalism and the Zohar, they mentioned this idea called the golem, where they use wicked witchcraft to build a image, build a clay image that they try to put a spirit into. So, it's even in the satanic religion of Kabbalah. So just saying that's just something you might want to look into. I recommend looking into the Face Like the Sun's Age of Deceit series. Part 1 and part 2, it talks about the golem in Judaism and what they believe about the golem and how that could possibly tie to the image of the beast. Which is, pretty much it's a theoretical, but the point of the matter is their idea of a golem is pretty much a satanic version of or perversion of what Yahuwah did with mankind. So anyway, so moving on here. Here's our one extra. We had all these witnesses. How many cross references we had so far? This is like an extra historical, extra biblical witness from the book called, and I have it in front of me actually today, translated by R.H. Charles. Okay. Which I really recommend a lot of his translations. He's pretty honest with these extra biblical books. The Ascension of Isaiah, done by Robert Charles. Okay. And the reason I'm citing this historical extra biblical source is because chapter 4 specifically of this chapter deals with what we just read about in prophecy in Yahuwah's word, his inspired word. And this deals with, it basically expounds on everything that's already mentioned that we just went through here. It gives you a more literal interpretation, even about the false miracles that the beast will do and all that. So let me just get to chapter 4 here. Okay. It says here, and I'll be reading just 10 verses from this chapter. That's all we need here. After it is consummated, Beliar, the great ruler, by the way, the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 6:14 calls Satan Beliar. Just thought I would mention that. Okay. So the idea of Beliar being a name for Satan is not, it's not contradictory. It's actually in Yahuwah's inspired word. It's actually there. Okay. Or sometimes Belial in the Tanakh. After it is consummated, Beliar, the great ruler, the king of this world, remember Paul calls him in his letters in the book of Ephesians, the deity of this world, will descend, who has ruled it since it came into being. Yea, he will descend from his firmament in the likeness of a man, a lawless king, the slayer of his mother, who himself, even this king, will persecute the plant which the beloved apostles of the beloved, the plant which the 12 apostles of the beloved has planted. Of the 12, one will be delivered into his hands. So it's talking about Judas was predestined to become a servant of Satan. Okay. This ruler in the form of the king will come, and there will come with him all powers of the world. They will hearken unto him all that he desires. Remember the 10 kings, that they have one mind to serve the beast, right? Okay. And at his word, the sun will rise at night, false line miracles, line wonders, power. He'll actually have miracles and stuff like that. Revelation talks about. He will make the moon appear at the 6th hour and the sun to rise at night. And all that he has desired, he will do in the world. He will do and speak like the beloved. And here's the part where it seems like the author here is expounding on Daniel 11:36 and 2 Thessalonians 2:4, because it says, he will say, I am Alua, and before me there has been none. So again, he'll exalt himself above everything that's called mighty one, that's worshipped. And all the people in the world will believe in him, and they will sacrifice to him, and they will serve him and say, this is Alua, and besides him there is no other. So people are going to be so deceived, they're going to think they're going to think he's the creator in human form, which is ironic because a lot of these people that will be misled by him rejected that belief system when Yahusha came. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of ironic. It's like a lot of people in Judaism say, well, we can't believe that the creator will take on human flesh, and we can't believe in this concept. But yet, according to this book, they will. So to me, it's kind of ironic a little bit. And they will sacrifice to him. They will serve him, saying, this is Alua, besides him there is no other. The greater number of those who shall have been associated together in order to receive the beloved, he will turn aside after him. So this, again, pulls on the concept that the elect could be deceived. Okay. There will be the power of his miracles in every city and region. Okay. He will set up. This is an important part here, verse 11, that goes with all that we talked about. With the abomination, desolation has to be interpreted literally and physically. He will set up his image before him in every city, and he shall bear sway 3 years, 7 months, and 27 Okay. And that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you that this is a historical source, an extra biblical historical source that believers in Yahushua Messiah of the first century, this is dated back to like early first century to second century AD. Early believers of Yahushua would have understood the abomination desolation to take place in a literal physical temple and a literal physical graven image as the image of the beast. Okay. So anyway, that's the reason I wanted to show that. And to each his own. If you don't want to look up that book, that's fine. I just wanted to show you as an extra historical source. That's pretty much the end of this study. I really hope this study was a baraka to all of our brothers and sisters out there. And again, this study was to educate people, to inform people, to warn people so they don't misunderstand this concept of who Yahuwah's, what the true temple of Yahuwah is, and the difference between the temple and a dwelling place that he can choose to dwell at times, but is not his exclusive temple. Okay, the huge difference between those two concepts. And so thank you for joining us. Thank you for lending an ear. For those that had eyes to see and ears to hear, thank you for being here, watching and listening to this study. And I just want to say to those that are keeping the new moon day today, have a great rest of your new moon day. Shalom.